In this episode of Denoised, we're going to break down the HPA Tech Retreat and a live AI editing workflow that I tried out.
If you were just there, this would be a good chance for you to catch up with everything that happened. And if you didn't go, this is your chance to know exactly what happened.
Let's get into it.
Hey, Joey, welcome back.
Thanks, Addy.
Where did you just come from?
Just came from Palm Springs with the lovely LA traffic. Underestimated how long it would take to get back here.
Yeah, you're finding out the ways of LA.
Yeah, and I always forget, like, even though it should be 2 hours, it takes 3 hours.
Yes.
Yeah. And so thank you for the coffee.
Yeah, you're welcome. So you were just at HPA your first time.
This is my first time with HPA. So HPA, Hollywood Professional Association.
This
is their big tech retreat, and they basically rent out the entire hotel in Palm Springs.
That's an understatement. It's a resort.
It is a resort, yeah.
I believe it's the Westin Rancho Mirage. Mm-hmm. It's a really nice place. It has its own golf course, a bunch of swimming pools everywhere, and then, of course, a giant conference hall. Two conference halls where the stuff takes place. And let's talk about the structure of the conference a little bit.
It was interesting, yeah. And so you've definitely been there more than me, and this is my first experience. But for conferences, they did a couple things really well. It's all in the one hotel, and the one hotel is bought out. So anyone that's at the hotel is there for the retreat. And they most likely work in M&E and are all there for about the same thing. They have a big conference hall, and it's just one track. And so it was nice because, I've been to other conferences and there's 4 tracks and you're just like, oh, which talk do I pick? Did I pick the right one? If there's 2 at the same time, then I'm like, well, I like both of them. Which one do I go to? So you don't have to make that choice.
Yeah.
You can either go there. Across the way, there's an innovation center, which is another kind of mini conference hall that's like a very miniature NAB, some booths and manufacturers demoing. Usually a lot of like smaller companies or kind of new tech companies, which we'll talk about in a second. There's some interesting ones.
Yep.
And then besides that, it's just like a lot of mingling. And because it's a few days and it's the same people, you kind of see the same people over and over again. And then you just kind of, it's very good for just like building connections.
Absolutely. I think this is their 30th anniversary.
It was the 30th, yeah.
So they've definitely figured out how to do this correctly.
Yeah, it was a really well-run event.
Yeah.
Food, also good coffee all the time.
Yeah.
Always available. I've been
you're very comfortable there.
Yeah, where you like are worried after the morning thing that they're going to take the coffee carts away. And then you're like, I'm going to get some coffee. And it's like gone. But no, every time you went outside, always coffee there. Always really good.
Perfect.
So kudos to that.
And you and I go to a lot of other conferences, right? We're about to go to NAB.
Yeah.
We just got back from CES, and I don't know if I might be going to InfoComm.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I've never been there, but I always hear about it.
And you and I, our jobs are to, network with people, get to build relationships and things like that. I feel like HPA has really figured that part out better than anybody else in this space, as far as just empowering connections.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was really good kind of just mix of how they structure it and build it. And it's different than NAB. And also like NAB, in our past history, our goals are different. Like I'm there to try to like find new companies, talk to companies, make videos, see what's new and out there. And
I'm there for sales meetings.
Yeah, you're like, doing sales but connections. But yeah, it's just so massive, and maybe you bump into the same people a few times, but
you lose the personal touch.
Party. Yeah, everyone's like, it's just so chaotic, and this is literally like about the same amount of time as NAB, but on such a smaller, closer scale.
Yeah,
and you bump into each other way more.
The thing with networking is, especially that I find with high-level executives, is there's like this barrier and this uneasiness because they rank high and they don't have the time. Perhaps they're too busy. But at HPA, it feels like those walls are kind of eroded away. So you can go up to anybody, approach anybody, and have a chat with them because this is a controlled environment with only M&E people, and everybody's there for professional goals.
Yeah, I think there's sort of that, I don't know, filter level of like, everyone there is like serious and very into what they're doing and knowledgeable and an expert.
Although I did have a couple of conversations that went sideways in the last few years. So there's always a little bit of that. But in general, I think...
I want to know more.
I mean, shout out to the HPA folks that I know. Kerry Grubin, president. James Blevins, I think he's the chair of Innovation Zone. Eric Weaver is pretty involved in the planning of it, and there's tons of Hillary is another wonderful person over there. So yeah, the group is really well put together, and they execute on this year by year really well.
Yeah. Yeah. A recap's sort of a vague term here because I don't feel like I'm the best to give a recap. So like my experience, I missed Monday, which was the opening day. Michael Cioni from Strada gave a keynote talk and everyone kind of kept referring back to that. I know he recorded it for his YouTube channel, so like it'll be up there, and I don't want to paraphrase because like it would all be secondhand of like what I heard. So I don't want to give a recap of something that I didn't hear. Yeah. And then I was there Tuesday presenting as part of a challenge with Fabric, our friends at Fabric, Todd and Rachel.
Yeah.
And they did a lot of programming for Tuesday all around AI. And I was part of a live, it's called Live Without a Net. And so there were 3 challenges for 3 of us. And I was doing one on editing. So it was AI assisted editing. So the goal was, so we talked about the Rob Legato hackathon in a previous episode. So the main reason I was there too, and besides from seeing what people did, was filming the hackathon to have raw footage for this challenge. So we shot the hackathon with 2 cameras, Blackmagic RAW, and sync audio, and everything was timecode synced. And I did 2 cameras because I wanted to like throw it a challenge and make my life more difficult instead of just doing 1 camera with the audio in, which would have been a lot easier. The goal was to try to get like a good rough cut, or more like a fine cut, in the 7-hour window that we had.
Almost live.
Yeah. And so we were on the side of the booth of the hall working all day. So I was technically in the hall the whole day with people presenting, but I'm like half paying attention because I was like doing workflow and dealing with issues. And I'll walk through the workflow and stuff because there are a lot of tools and things that were interesting that I learned and want to address in the future. And then the other 2 challenges were someone else was doing dubbing. And they weren't trying to do mouth movement, but they were trying to match the pronunciation and using some of their software to kind of tweak the delivery and the timing so that it matched better.
Sounds like the Brutalist.
Yeah.
So were they using ElevenLabs or another tool?
I think it was their proprietary tool that they've been developing, and that gives more. It not only like does the translation and the dubbing in other languages, but it was explaining there was a more fine-tuned timeline to go in and like tweak the delivery and stuff and the timing so that, you know, when you translate and the words are cutting on each other, like that you have more flexibility to adjust the timing than you would if you were to like automatically just give it the audio and be like, you know, ElevenLabs, give me the dub back.
So it's almost like Pro Tools level precision.
Yeah, more like that. Yeah, that was my impression.
With AI sort of flavor to it.
Yes, that's helping. That ultimately is still helping speed up the process than manually doing this, like, you know, line by line by line.
Yeah.
And then the third one was basically taking live news footage and turning it into social media clips from like sort of a live news feed. So kind of like Opus in a way, but handling live input feeds. So they were doing it from like some AP news footage. And this was some software that they had been building to help auto frame the faces. And then kind of you can give it prompts of like what type of topics you want, and it would sort of auto segment and automatically cut up and upload.
So create viral bites of the news as quickly as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. From like live news feeds just to help speed up the like social media team.
Oh, that's dope.
Or like sports or, you know, like a lot of good live applications for this. So I can walk through, because this is what I was most knowledgeable about, because this is what I was working on. I can walk through the tools and some of the workflow that I did and some of the hiccups that I hit with this AI editing workflow. It definitely was live because some people thought like, oh, is it just like you pre-edited this and you're just going to display it? No, because
it's like a cooking show. It comes out of the oven.
I wish I had it baked in the oven already. Mm-hmm. So we had the multiple cameras, the sound, and then my other idea was to pull archival footage and try to see if there were some storylines where maybe the hackathon could kind of be the narrative thread, but we use that to explore like the history of different technological changes in filmmaking. And I pulled a bunch of like Rob Legato interviews and stuff from the past. So my idea was to try to give the AI everything and kind of see if it could kind of come up with like some 8 to 10 minute scripts.
And what tool is that?
The one I was going to use the most was Claude, because I've found Claude to be the best at sort of creative writing tasks. And also it's the best when you give it transcripts with time code and you're like, give me a line from this transcript, you know, where they say something like this, and it'll give you the line and it'll be the most accurate. Well, I'll do the same thing with ChatGPT and it'll give me a line and it sounds like they said it, but then when I look in the transcript, they didn't actually say that line. It makes it up or paraphrases it of something that sounds like something they said. So I found Claude to be the best at like
more accurate
and better at like kind of creative writing tasks.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So each of these LLMs kind of have their own flavor.
They do, for sure. They do. And I'll go into it. I did try some other things as well. So one of the challenges, I was shot in RAW. I had to convert everything into something that would upload to a lot of these cloud tools. So my plan was to use Strada, Addy AI, which I'd not used before. And it was another kind of AI-assisted editing tool.
Addy AI.
Yeah, Addy, EDDIE.
Okay. What does it do?
Basically, it's like a separate app. You can upload either a couple of like interviews, and it has a couple of different models of like what you're trying to do. If you're trying to do like a rough cut, and so you can give it a couple interviews, and it'll sort of do a chat interaction to be like, well, here's some story ideas of how we can structure these interviews, and it sort of spits out a rough cut or an assembly cut using like sound bites from the interviews. That was like one version. Another version was you could upload some A-roll and B-roll clips, and it'll like tag it and then give you back like an XML file you can import into Resolve or Premiere.
I was just gonna say, like, how do you take over and then finish up the project?
Yeah, it's really just, it was sort of like a lot of kind of send back and forth, and you're sort of limited on how many clips you can upload. So I'm still trying to figure out like what the ideal use case is. I thought it would be helpful because it had a multicam feature where you could give it a couple angles, and of one interview, you can give it like the A angle, B angle, and audio, and it would give you the excerpts that you asked for synced as a multicam. And I thought that would be useful where it's like, once I figure out the script, I can like to automate like, hey, pull all the selects from here. I thought it might help with that. It didn't so much. So I'm still kind of curious like what its strengths are.
Maybe it's too early to tell, and they're trying to figure it out as well.
And there was like an update or something that I think happened the day I was doing this as well, that like some stuff I had access to, like they were like, it wasn't supposed to do that. But got everything transcribed. And then my idea was I was going to put all the transcripts and create a Claude project, which is like you can kind of create a separate little dedicated area in Claude and upload files so that when you prompt it, it like just references those files. It's like a little knowledge base. So I uploaded all the transcripts. I maxed out the sort of amount of storage you can give it. And then after like 20 minutes of prompting, so this is like right after the challenge started, Claude locked me out. So basically I hit the rate limit with Claude, and it was like, you can't use it
Were
anymore.
you on a premium plan?
Yeah, I pay for it. Yeah.
It's still.
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
So that's the thing with editing. You're just dealing with such large volumes of data, and
I mean, the total. Well, I didn't even give Claude. The total raw footage was about 11 hours, but that's like 2 cameras.
That's a lot for an AI model.
I didn't give it that much for 11 hours raw with 2 cameras, but I only gave it the audio, which would have been 5 hours or so.
Okay.
Plus like 9 hours of the archival stuff, which is a lot. For a documentary, not that much. For Claude, it was a lot. It maxed out its memory. Okay. And then every time I'm running a prompt, it's like using everything. And that was why it locked me out, because like every time I'm like asking a new thing, it's got to run through everything again. And that like,
I mean, that's kind of encouraging in a weird way, because I feel like, we're talking about the big giant companies like OpenAI and Perplexity and all, Claude. And there is room for a small and nimble company to maneuver themselves into the space and create something that is really for an editor and built.
Well, in the Innovation Zone, I did see someone that might address that. So I'll talk about them in a second, because there was someone who was like, oh, I want to see what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm kind of glad stuff is not fully figured out yet.
No, everyone's figuring this out.
Yeah, and so there is room for somebody to really be successful at this stage.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're watching the video version of this, I'm showing my diagrams here. You could see like, basically I'm connecting a bunch of different tools, because there is no like one solution to like make this work. There's like a bunch of possibilities and connecting the dots. And at the beginning of the challenge, they're like, what do you think the biggest hurdle might be for my challenge? And initially I was thinking like, just the XML files reconnecting to the media properly. Like just the simple act of like, because I'm going to be sending XML files everywhere and trying to relink stuff from like one app to another.
Right.
Which did end up being a little bit of an issue, but Claude ended up being the big issue. So Claude locked me out.
Okay.
I didn't really have a script. Then I jumped into Perplexity, because Perplexity also you can run Claude, but I just found for whatever reason, these language models never work as well through the third-party tools as they do
natively
directly in the web interface. You kind of get more features out of them. So I didn't get as good as I wanted, but I got enough of a script, and then this took like half the morning, and I was like, I just got to like do something to go with it.
Yeah.
So spitting out the rough cut, the Addy AI thing didn't work as well to like pull the selects, because I thought like I could be, okay, here are all the lines I need of Rob Legato from his interview, like just make a rough cut or make an assembly cut of that. It couldn't do that. So a lot of it ended up just being like old school manual, run through the interview and just like cut it into the timeline.
Yeah. Is this an issue where, we have the saying in computer graphics world is if you're a generalist, you're a master of none? Are Perplexity and Claude and ChatGPT, are they just such a generalist that they're really not able to master?
I mean, I think they're advanced. And it depends what you're trying to do. But yeah, I've gone back and forth too. Like if you pay for Perplexity, which gives you access to like pretty much all the models, is it worth still paying for a Claude or a ChatGPT? I don't know. I've gone back and forth on that.
And also referring back to your ChatGPT Operator video where you had to do production specific tasks.
Well, I'll get to that because I did use that.
Again, like you can't be a generalist and a master at the same time. You have to kind of pick which direction you want to go, which lane you want to be in. So that's why I think it's really a cool time for small AI developers to just own a certain segment of the market and just...
Yeah, and if you could figure out how to adapt these models to specific use cases, that's also really powerful because it's like, I'm tinkering a lot with prompts, and I also like on top of the project, it's like I had to write a really long instruction prompt of like how to format the script, what it should do, and so I'm like messing around with that stuff. But like if you're building a front end app, you can like access these models and do all of that for people behind the scenes so that it just works when people use this.
Yeah, I think the middle layer of prompt engines. Just like taking your prompt and turning it into the prompt that actually gets you the thing that you want. I think that's an area of desire. A lot of stuff that needs to happen there that hasn't yet.
Yeah, right? For sure.
Because people are using, even at the hackathon, you showed me a couple of examples where they take a prompt and they turn it into a more massive prompt and so on. Yeah.
Or you take a prompt, you give it to Claude or ChatGPT and be like, improve this prompt, and then it makes the prompt possibly better, and then you give it to and then you run it again. I think that'll get more streamlined. I'm trying, maybe we'll talk about this in the next episode, but I saw a report from, I think it was the newer reasoning models from ChatGPT and OpenAI's instructions on how to prompt them, and that they were saying that you shouldn't try to like prompt hack these, that they work better with just plain language, and that if you like, because there's like a whole art to prompting that kind of people developed, and they were saying with these that was like, you don't have to do that.
Okay.
It actually sometimes produces worse outputs than just telling it what you want. And I think eventually we'll get to the spot where tell it what you want. And
I mean, it's a natural language model.
Yeah.
So it should understand natural language. But like a quick example is, when you prompt for something cinematic, you have like your lens selection,
4K,
you have your
Ultra HD.
Yeah, you have your camera move, pan left, and then you have your environment description, then you have your character description, and it's like, it has to fit into 180 characters or 180 words or whatever. And you don't have to do that.
All right. So a lot of it ended up turning, I had the script and it just turned into rote, like assembling. Like I had everything transcribed in Resolve, and Resolve's nice because you could transcribe locally. And I did that with the archival footage. And it was a good example too of just like, you can run these things locally where you don't have to pay credits for to transcribe. You don't have to upload your footage. You can just run it locally on your computer and transcribe stuff. So Resolve was good with that. And then it just was like, find the line, put it in the edit, find the line, put it in the edit. I will also say, because I was there and I did these interviews, like I knew the footage and I knew what we had. And so there were times too, when I did have my 30 minutes of Claude to script, where I knew the lines it was picking weren't the best. So I still think with all of these, there's really no replacement for watching all your footage, knowing everything you have.
Yeah.
These tools are really good the second, the third, the fourth cut, when you're like,
okay,
what was that? Didn't they say something about this? Or like, we need a line about this. Did they say something? And then just go in and ask it, like, what are all the lines that they said? It's really good for that stuff. Same with like Strada. Strada, they were nice enough to give me access to their facial ID feature. So now it can run facial recognition on all your footage and like group by like face and tag.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I was like, this is gonna be great for the hackathon because it's like, we see who won. And then it's like, let's go back and find all the footage that has their face in it.
Yeah, I mean, the iPhones do that with your photos.
Right. It's funny because we're so used to that on a consumer end that's been around forever.
Right.
Like your iPhone, even
pre-AI.
Facebook. Like, remember when Facebook would recommend, it's like, is this person? You're like, how do they know? How did they know that? This was like 10 years ago. Yeah.
Biometric scan of the face requires no AI. It's just computer vision. Because we all have unique interocular distances, distance between the two eyes, distance between nose and two eyes, your jaw, and it's like our faces are our fingerprints, and it doesn't take that much.
Face ID?
Yes. Well, Face ID is a little bit more complex because it uses a depth sensor, so it actually has a 3D scan of your face. But you could just do it with a 2D image.
Yeah, and I guess that's what they're doing.
Yeah. One of my favorite, I'm going to segue here a little bit. One of my favorite memories of HPA was, I think it was last year, where I was not expecting this. And it was the very first day on a Sunday, Sunday morning at like 8 a.m. when things kick off. And they have this breakfast. I'm sure they had a nice buffet and everything. And then you hear like this big thing rolling in, and we all turn around. We're like, what's that? And this bartender is rolling in a mimosa cart at 8 a.m. And we're like,
on the very first day.
It's like, is that what I think it is? Like, yeah. Are you gonna? No. I have the whole conference. I can't have a drink right now. 5 minutes later, we're all drinking mimosas at 8 a.m. And it was really pleasant, actually, because we weren't like hammered or anything, but it just loosened us a little bit enough.
I think that's the vibe of like what the event's going to be like.
Yeah, and totally. And it was such a good move on their part. I mean, for those who wanted to partake, they were enjoying themselves. And again, the HPA is such a unique thing in the media and entertainment world. I really hope they can continue for another 30 years. Yeah.
I mean, it seems like it. Yeah, it was a good event.
Good.
Back to the run around with trying to get this thing done. So I used ElevenLabs to do narration. That worked out fine. I did try one route. I talk about Descript a lot, and I use Descript. And Descript's so weird because they accidentally built the best text video editor. And it's great, too, because you can bring in your interviews, you can copy and paste like a Word doc, different files, interview segments, but then you could also write out narration or other additional elements, which you can't really do in any other like text-based editor. It's just like moving clips around, but you can't like add additional things. And Descript, it's like you could type out a script and then you could have it, turn it into an AI voiceover just to like have that file as like a placeholder.
Yeah.
And it'll give you an XML file. As far as Descript goes, I don't really know how they're positioning their tool. It's just always been weird because they're like going more after marketers and podcasters, but they sort of built this kind of good pro level.
It's probably a B2C product. And
it is a B2B. Yeah. Or a B2B of like the marketing, the marketing team or the team where they got to do some video stuff, but they're not like pro video people.
Yeah, I think the enterprise market revenue wise is still not as lucrative as, going out to all the influencers and TikTokers out there.
Yeah.
Thousands and thousands of them.
I mean, on the channel, we have like an intro to Descript video, and it's like one of the most popular videos and like one of the top ranking just like Descript tutorial videos.
Sure.
Because people are there's a lot of people that are curious about
I think it goes back to the idea that editing is boring and
or complicated,
tedious and complicated.
And Descript has a timeline, but they do a really clever job where it's like, well, if you don't want to deal with the timeline, you don't want to get into that, you could just edit it like you would a Word file, which is, people know how to do that. Yeah.
I do like on the AI editing side of things, there's a cloud-based editor called Veed.io.
I've seen them. I've never used it.
I used it. I mean, look, it's a very simple cloud-based timeline. The AI stuff is probably, adding transcript, adding captions, cleaning up audio. So I would call it a light AI application. And that's the sweet spot for a lot of people. Like, I don't know how to clean up background noise from a mic. Like, let the AI do that.
Right. Yeah. One click a button, magic audio.
You do. I don't.
It's done. I mean, I just use other tools, and it's like, clean it up. I'm not an audio engineer.
Right.
Things I tried that didn't work out, and we were talking about different models. So when in Perplexity, because Perplexity has DeepSeek in it, and that's the easiest way for me.
That's right.
I'm not going to spin up DeepSeek on my own. I tried the script through DeepSeek as well. Didn't really do anything good.
Oh, interesting.
So Claude was still better.
Wow. Okay.
Perplexity also has their own deep research feature that they added.
Yeah. And you said it was light.
I said research. It was like shallow research.
Shallow research.
Shallow. Deeper than the basic output, but nowhere near as comprehensive as ChatGPT.
I was so impressed by ChatGPT Deep Research.
That is still
didn't we use this for this podcast when we
did? We had to like come up with a strategy and like SWOT analysis, and it's pretty good. I did also try. I gave all my transcripts to ChatGPT, and I tried deep research on the transcripts to see like, can you make a script? And it also didn't do so hot with that type of task.
Okay.
So it's more for research, not really like, here's my stuff and go do a creative output with it.
It's dialed in for research papers.
Yeah.
Not for documentary videos.
That's why it's called deep research.
Right.
It was good though, because I did beforehand, I was curious. I'm like, oh, give me a good history of, the history of technology and filmmaking and like different like, moments when new technology came out and people had like, reactions to it.
That feels like Wikipedia articles, like thousands of them.
Yeah. And it was good at like, generated a big essay about actual, like, pretty accurate stuff between like, shifting to digital, HD to 4K. Like
if I was a college student, I had to write a 20-page essay. That would be my jam.
Good luck if you're a college
Hey, you were
professor.
saying that at HPA there was a summary of all of the AI news happening, and the fact that we were able to hit a lot of them.
One thing I did catch was like one of the opening talks on Tuesday, and it was sort of like a keynote of like, here's all the like stuff as M&E you should be aware of, and like headline stuff. And I was like, oh, 90% of this, we've already talked about this on the podcast. DeepSeek, the copyright ruling, the U.S. Copyright Office ruling of like what they determined like the original transformative enough like to copyright protect, and the Reuters versus Ross intelligence ruling.
So if you are looking for M&E,
you're an M&E and
you're in the right place.
The HPA keynote all the time. This is the podcast for that. We have clearly checked all the boxes.
Yeah.
Things that worked well. I did do my ChatGPT Operator, and pretty much the same exact use case. Go find me music.
Yeah.
Worked phenomenal. Like built out a Google Sheet of like 20 songs. I was like, go find me 5 tracks that were like EDM, electronic background beat. Go find me 5 music tracks that are like just documentary background music, and put it on this Google Sheet, and it did it.
Was it bringing you back licensed, like Envato links?
I said go to Envato Elements.
Okay.
I had a subscription.
Not like YouTube links or stuff.
I specifically told it Envato. I could try, because I knew Envato, it didn't violate, because I had tested it before, so I knew Envato worked. I have Soundstripe, so maybe Soundstripe would work too.
I'm a fan of Artlist.io.
Or I had ArtGrid.
ArtGrid is good.
Which is the video one.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. I got to a point where it's like, well,
I thought you would generate new music, with Suno or something like that.
I have been dabbling and stuff with that, but I was steering clear of the generative stuff because I know they wanted like, ethical. I know they wanted it to be more like of a focus on the utility part.
Yeah.
I didn't get this far, but I had an idea too of generating like B-roll placeholders in batch. So Ideogram, which is sort of another mid-journey video image generator. I like them a lot. They're really good at generating text images and honoring the text, but they opened up a batch generator feature, and they had a little tutorial where you could actually download their CSV template, upload it to ChatGPT, which I didn't realize you could do, and you could say ChatGPT, like, give me 10 different prompts for this, and it'll like write a bunch of prompts and give you back a CSV file.
Loaded CSV.
Yeah.
You can then take to batch.
Yes. I didn't realize that ChatGPT could give you back a CSV file. So you can give it the template and you could have it fill it out, and then you could download the filled out template. Very cool.
Yeah. ChatGPT gives back all types of stuff. It gives me back images all the time.
I knew images, but I didn't know you could fill out a file.
Yeah, that thing can do a lot, man.
Yeah. So that was the idea. That was an idea I had. I didn't get to it, but then give it to Ideogram and just get a bunch of like images back just for placeholders.
Yeah.
When I do stuff like that with like client stuff, I usually have it render in like a sketch or a black and white. So it's like clear to everyone. It's like, this is temporary. This is a placeholder.
Gotcha.
I don't like to generate super realistic looking stuff because then it's like people start nitpicking things and it's like, this is illustrative.
Stop.
Like, yeah. Oh, the other big kind of thing I hit, and I wanted to like explore this, we could talk about like potential ideas, was the B-roll. And so it's like I got the kind of A-roll down with like interview segments and like some, voiceover stuff. But then sourcing the B-roll or just automating, helping speed up B-roll was another sticking point. And so I was thinking 12 Labs, which you're like, did you know the 12 Labs? Like they were there and they did a bunch of
video
talks.
cataloging service.
Yeah, so they have their own models trained on analyzing video, and they look at the actual visuals. Unlike a lot of stuff trained on videos, they usually just train on the spoken word and not the actual visuals. And so their models can analyze video, be like, this is face, microphone, laptop.
Yeah.
But there's still a bit more of like a back end, like you have to connect to them, be a little bit more technical. I was thinking like, oh man, Dylan from the hackathon, he can figure this out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he actually won a 12 Labs
API
hackathon before. But I'm thinking that there's got to be a way to automate a tool, or if you want to build this, where it could take your footage, analyze it in 12 Labs, and then I just want to be like, hey, give me like a string out, like an open timeline string out of all of the shots of like this person, or just give me a string out of all the shots of like someone at a computer.
Yeah.
I realized Strada could kind of possibly do it, but it's more limitation on the exports, because the only video editor, Strada will like tag the range of the clip, like this section of this clip has this keyword, or this person, and it'll like give you ranges.
Yeah.
But when you export that, the only nonlinear editor that honors ranges is Final Cut, which they have a phenomenal like range tagging feature, which I wish more editing systems would adopt, because it's such a old school way where it's like the tagging features on Premiere or Resolve, or you tag this clip with a keyword, but it's like, well, it could be a long clip. Like, I want to know like what part. And Final Cut, you could like just source all of the moments with the specific tag and just drag them all in.
Okay.
I hope more editors, more other tools add features like that.
Yeah.
So, but that was like I realized that later. Like I could have done that, but I would like to see more I know there's got to be a way to do more of an automated, like pull me these selects and just give me a timeline of like this string out.
And is Strada running standalone, or is it like a plugin within?
Right now they're standalone, but they'll give you like a CSV or an XML to send to whatever your editing program of choice is.
Got it.
They support like all the main four.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, this stuff is coming up on us fast, man.
I mean, yeah, it's always Strada just opened at NAB last year. And the ongoing joke was I was the very first user of it, and I broke it. I was the first person to break it. I like gave it my.
Joey's not allowed back in here.
Yeah, so that was the ongoing joke with the team. Like, oh, are you the guy that broke Strada on the first day?
We know who you are.
Yeah, they're like your pictures on the wall.
What's your prediction at if you were to go back to HPA next year in 26? And you were to do this all over again, what are your predictions on these tools? Where are they going to be?
I think it's going to be more embedded. I remember there was one of the talks about, I think they had surveyed CTOs, and I think one of the pain points was like AI helping like on the individual level, but like they want to see more like can it help on like the organization or sort of the like more systems level.
Macro.
Yeah. On the counterpoint, I think also people are maybe tired of just focusing on AI or talking about AI. I know it's like a buzzword and a hot topic, but some people are just like talking to some people. It's like, I want to hear about other things too.
Yeah.
And not just
a lot of stuff happening with cloud infrastructure,
cloud, remote collaboration. And that came on in some of the other days as well. But I understand that, because even when we're talking about like, what should we talk about on the podcast? And it's like, there's always new AI stuff, but I'm like, and we go like back and forth of we don't want to just always be AI.
This is not an AI podcast. This is a media and entertainment tech podcast. It just happens to be that a lot of the action is in the AI space.
Yeah, there's always new stuff and it's developing and everyone wants to know, but it's not the only thing. Yeah. So the innovation zone, this is your other area of HPA that has like companies have little booths, like a very miniature NAB-ish, but a couple kind of companies that popped up that are a bit more focused and might not have enough funds to have a booth at NAB, so it's good to see them here. Yeah. The few updates are ones that kind of stood out. So one big one was Quickture. And so this is, I think I had mentioned like, oh, there's a tool that could have helped. I kind of wish I knew about them before, but they only work in Premiere. But they're basically what I was trying to do with Addy AI, but it seems way more powerful. So they can work natively inside the NLE. They had a Premiere demo set up. Nice. And you could do all your string outs and your timelines of your interviews or your raw footage. And they use, I think, a combo of like Claude and OpenAI. And run the transcripts, but they'll build out full string outs, and you prompt it of like what kind of stuff you're looking for, and it'll give you kind of like story beat notes, and it'll like help shape everything, but it's all in the editor. So like it gives you back a new timeline, but it's already a timeline in the editor. Yeah,
you don't have to import, export.
Yeah, like cutting down on that back and forth is like such a huge saver.
Wow, that's cool.
And the stuff they're demoing was like hours of like reality footage. And like it was like they're demoing like a cooking show with like interviews and then the like verite stuff of the person cooking. Yeah. But like hours and hours of raw footage. And I asked them like, is there a limit to like where it breaks? And they're like, the way they kind of vector classify everything was they're like, no, we could kind of just keep giving it up like 100 hours.
So it's probably creating proxies or something internally.
It's just running on the audio right now. So it doesn't solve it's to get the rough cut string out, like a radio edit of like the spoken word. So it's to get the editor to like, a good like assembly cut. And so they can go do their fine cut.
Which does cut down on a lot.
I mean, it still cuts down a huge amount of time. Yeah. And they were giving some other examples of like repurposing content libraries, like where there's like an existing show that was maybe like a bit old and they want to just take the segments and kind of recut them or like regroup them like a cooking show, but maybe make like a chocolate episode and just like resource the entire library, which, you know, would manually take someone like days to go through and tag and stuff. And like they can kind of do it.
That's very cool.
Automatically. Yeah. And so it still leaves the gap open for the B-roll question, but you know, I could see like an integration with 12Labs or another kind of image recognition model to solve that same thing we were just talking about.
That's amazing.
Like, oh, hey, they're talking about this thing. Go find the clips in our B-roll bin that you analyzed and like just give me a string out.
And is it running pretty autonomously, or are you supervising it the entire time?
I believe you kind of prompt it. It does its thing. It gives you, you know, a new cut, and then you could like re-prompt or like refine. Like you could refine the prompt to give it another direction.
Okay.
And I believe they said too that they'll like run the same prompt a few times and kind of come back with a couple options and to see what it does, and then like kind of pick which one to like which direction to go down and refine that one or keep reprompting that one.
Let me ask you this: you have two editors. One using this tool, one not. How much faster do you think the first editor will be?
If you're doing something like this, you know, a reality or documentary kind of thing, I think way faster. I would still be curious of how, if you don't know the source footage, how well the selections are. Because that was the issue I ran into with Claude, where it's like it did pick some lines, but I knew like it wasn't the best. Like there were better lines or more impactful lines. But I would love to get my hands on it and try it out. It's just in Premiere. I think they said they had an Avid plugin, but that I was talking to them about Resolve, and they're like, yeah, we need to
we're working on Resolve.
Port it over. Yeah. Resolve is pretty. They have a whole scripting console, so they're pretty open to having other third-party scripts and stuff like work and control the app. So hopefully it should be relatively easy
I find
for them
that
to port it.
In the aftermarket editor plugin world, Premiere has the most stuff.
Yeah, they got it. Yeah.
Why is that?
User base.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know enough about the code backend.
Probably the APIs are more robust, my guess.
For like plug-in stuff, I think Resolve's a little tricky because you have to like kind of build it in Fusion and then applying it. I don't know enough yet about Resolve. I knew Final Cut had a good amount too.
Yes.
And it was with the Motion. They made it very easy where you could build the thing in Motion and turn it into a template and bring it into Final Cut.
Okay.
I like Final Cut, but just no one uses Final Cut.
What else did you see at the Innovation Zone?
So going back to Strada, they actually had a really interesting demo that they're showing that it could really be impactful. So basically right now Strada and their whole sort of thesis was they don't want to be the cloud storage provider. And I ran into this issue when I was trying to like look for media asset management tools or like collaboration tools where I got a Synology NAS and I was like, cool, awesome. Like now all the editors, we can access this stuff. And then I was like, not so fast. So like actually, if you use like an Iconic or another tool for everyone to like categorize the stuff, they need to generate a proxy and then like upload the proxy to the cloud. So like when people are accessing the web page to like look at the files, they're not playing the files locally off my machine. They're playing a proxy off the cloud. So now I'm paying for cloud storage again because it has to make the proxies and store them in the cloud. And then if they want to download the file, they would have to upload the file to cloud storage,
right?
And then they'd have to download it. And so it's like, well, then why not just buy this like NAS if like I still have to use the cloud?
Yeah.
And Strada was all like, we don't want to provide more cloud stuff. So they integrated initially with Frame.io, Google Drive, Dropbox, and they just directly stream the files from those platforms. But what they demoed here was now there's like a little client app that you could like run on your computer, and any hard drive you have plugged into your computer, Strada could access it and read it.
Amazing.
Basically, I think they're using like WebRTC, where they're basically just streaming the file like a Zoom call in real time. And so then any other person that has access to your Strada project can look at the file and download the file peer-to-peer.
Yeah.
No cloud intermediary. So I think that's awesome.
Wow.
Like if they get that rolling out.
Especially talking about terabytes of footage.
Yeah, when you start getting big and then it's like cloud storage never goes down. When you start putting stuff on there, it's like, well, then you can delete it? No.
Yeah.
No, we can keep it there.
That's like you said, the first assembly cut is when you go from maybe like 10 terabytes down to 1 terabyte. Like that could happen locally.
Maybe that, right. Yeah. Or it's like, oh, okay, maybe now we just know we can put it on a shuttle drive and send it to someone, or we know we could just transfer this stuff and have to transfer everything. Or in theory, they were saying that it could be possible to like kind of like a Lucid Link, like mount a virtual drive and stream the files and edit the files off a computer. That'd be pretty wild. But really interesting to see that and a solution where you could work locally off a machine and kind of build out your own little cloud and not have to like keep uploading media back and forth to like another provider. So that was cool.
What about virtual production at Innovation Zone? Any walls or technologies?
There were walls set up. I mean, B&H Studio had some walls with Disguise, Zeiss, Syncraft tracking.
NCAM, previously NCAM.
Previously NCAM.
Yeah.
Alex from Simplates had a demo.
Alex Pierce.
Yeah, and also PlatePros, sort of kind of combo demo of different driving plates.
Yeah, I saw the PlatePros vehicle.
Yeah, little
so cool
buggy with the rig around.
Yeah.
Actually, I did ask him. I was like, "Would the Ursa 17K like does that?" Because his camera rig right now is sort of a bunch of like stacked, like Canon R1s, I think, or something. And it's like, does the 17K, does that like get you anything? And you're sort of like, the main thing would be if it's more of a square, like an open gate format versus a wider,
like a rectangular.
Yeah, because he's like, I needed the height. It's like if I was rectangular, it wouldn't do me any good because like we couldn't film the bottom. We need the vertical height.
Right.
So he's like, it could potentially be better. Like, I don't know, TBD.
Okay.
Once it comes out.
What's your take on virtual production this year at HPA?
It was, I mean, it was there. It was showing. I don't know if there was
nothing crazy new.
Nothing
just evolutionary.
that popped up. Yeah, I mean, the interesting thing, Lightcraft was there again, which does the with Jet Set, where you can use your phone as a
simulcam.
You can use your phone as a tracker, and you could mount your phone on a cinema camera and like get the same feed, and
it overlays the digital stuff on top of the plate.
And he was talking about like a lot of development he's been seeing is people bringing in G-splats into Gaussian splats into you can bring it directly into Lightcraft, and so you can do an environmental scan and just bring it into your app. It's a lot easier to process run than like a whole Unreal scene.
Yeah,
and
I believe they run on Unity, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not 100% sure.
Okay. But very cool technology.
Yeah.
And it's used for quite a lot of movies already.
Yeah. And an interesting use case, I might try to dig into a little bit more, is there was a feature that was doing an animation, but they were basically using Lightcraft to like kind of shoot real actors and kind of they can comp the environments, like rough environments that they're building, so they can shoot it in Lightcraft. The director could see, they're tracking the camera movement, so the animators have that camera movement to work off of.
Yeah.
And then they were actually running the footage into Wonder Dynamics or Wonder Studio to create a first draft of animation, of character animation.
Right. So they're tracking skeletal motion and then overlaying the digital character on top of the
Wonder Dynamics,
person.
you like give it the footage, it figures out the person, and you tell it replaces the person with the character.
So that stuff is real time now?
No, still they have to process that shot by shot.
Yeah.
But the filming and the performance and the movement is real time, and they can see the environment in real time. And they were recording the composite, so they're also able to make basically the whole edit of the film to kind of show people, get feedback, and have this sort of like, instead of doing like a animatic or a storyboard, they did this more kind of on the fly, like in a little studio, shot a film in a week.
This is the
so everyone's on board.
This is the mainstream version of what James Cameron and Lightstorm used for Avatar 2 and 3 and a little bit of 1, but
and with a fraction of the budget. And I mean, these are tools that we all like
exactly
these tools.
Isn't that crazy, like how something that is hundreds of millions of dollars, if you were to cost out James Cameron's Avatar pipeline with the hardware and the software and the teams, now it could be a few $1,000s. Just in a few years. Amazing. Is there any AI component to Lightcraft, or it's strictly doing game engine?
It'll do like real-time segmentation. So like if you're filming a person and you want to kind of roughly just map them without a green screen, it'll recognize you and cut you out. I
believe it's going to be using some kind of a depth map, whether it's computed on the fly or actual stereo cameras.
Yeah, possibly. Elliot would know better than me.
Awesome.
But it's always kind of cool to see like interesting out. Like, and that's one of the things that I think they built it for like one use, and then someone else is like, I could use this for something totally different. That makes animation life easier, some other application easier.
The example I saw was that film Ted. With the teddy bear, because the teddy bear had to
developed their own company and apps.
Yes.
The name is escaping me, but similar. It seems like a similar app, but a bit more bespoke. And like contact us for more info kind of thing.
The simulcam industry is really like, we don't talk about that side of virtual production a lot, but that is the side. I think that has more use case, then I see VFX and LED volume.
Yeah, there was a talk that I caught, and the DP's names are escaping me, but it was about sort of a VFX pipeline change, and they used a lot of like being able to track the camera and kind of overlay the virtual space, not shooting on a wall or anything, but just like knowing that they're going to composite it later, but being able to overlay what they're going to see in real time, so like everyone could see it, and kind of change the pipeline so like the VFX kind of work as soon as they like start recording versus like recording everything and then VFX comes in later. They can kind of like frame and see everything in real time.
So much better.
Yeah. My experience, I can't say I have the best recap because like I was there for 2 days and saw a handful of talks.
And you're busy.
But it was mostly, I was either demoing or just meeting and talking to people. So it was, that part was great. You know, it was great to face to face and just like meet a lot of new people. And
you don't realize how valuable that is.
That I've heard of the podcast.
Tell me, did you hear anybody talk about the podcast?
It was a few times where I would talk to them and then we connect on LinkedIn and then they message me after like, oh, that's why you look so familiar. It's like, I saw the podcast thing come out, or I saw another like, I actually mentioned Cosm to someone too, and they're like, I don't know, it sounds familiar. And it was like, oh, maybe I saw something on my feed, and I was like, oh yeah, that was like our video that you saw on your feed. Like that was,
oh wow, okay, so
that was our thing.
It's permeating.
Eventually they realized like, oh yeah, like we've seen the podcaster stuff, and and also shout out to Andrew who left a comment, and then realized that we were in the podcast.
Awesome.
But overall, great event.
Well, thanks, Joey. Thanks for going and bringing back all this knowledge for us.
Yeah, and maybe we'll both be there next year together.
Absolutely. Yeah, it sounds like a plan.
Well, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for this HPA roundup. Thanks, everyone, for listening. Links and all the stuff that we talked about, you can find it at denoisedpodcast.com.
Thanks for listening to our latest episode. And as always, we're still in a very early growth phase, so any support at this point is highly appreciated. Leave us a follow, leave us a review, or just, listen to us on your commute home. Thank you.
All right. We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.